What's up everybody? We are back with another 412 video today. If you guys didn't check out our last video on this car, we built a really cool one-of-a-kind exhaust manifold system for this car. And I mentioned at the end of that video that we were going to be talking about the rear suspension next. Now when coming to the back of the car, you'll notice that the 412 came with a relatively common double A-arm or double wishbone rear suspension setup. Now the problems for us lie right here in the dual shock system that this car came with. The dual shock system would come with a number of problems for us in our build and what we had planned for the car. The first of which would be the tires. The 412 came factory with these Michelin 240 series tires. Now for us to add the much larger rear tires that we would need to handle the extra power of the 812 engine, we wanted to be able to move the tires as far inboard as possible to create as much space so we wouldn't have to create as large of over fenders to fit the newer tires. Martin and Steve decided that despite the extensive work that would be necessary to eliminate the dual shock setup in replacement with a single shock setup, that it would be worth the effort to create the rear suspension system that we wanted to have on this car. Thanks to the advancements of both shock and spring technology from the time this car was built until now, we would be able to achieve the same suspension dampening that we wanted for the weight of this car and have considerably less unsprung weight with a single shock versus the dual shock setup in this car. Now Steve took a look at both this suspension system, this is a 348 rear suspension system, as well as some of the other more modern Ferraris, and decided that for the 412 specifically, that he could design the rear upright to have the shock mount on it here instead of on the A-arms the way that the 412 is now. So the benefit of moving the shock off of the A-arm the way it is here and onto the upright is that it would take the unnecessary added weight of the actual suspension moving off of the suspension bushings and put it on the spherical bearing of the shocks. Now that I've talked a little bit about what we did, I'm going to show the work that Martin did to build the new shock tower. So let's get right to it.
We decided that we're going to try to utilize this space as much as we can. We decided to put a battery right in the middle and then maybe some relays and fuse box on the side. This is going to be the seal box right where I show you guys, which is going to have this battery mount. This is a super beefy battery that Ferrari OEM uses. It's very heavy, but it's very reliable. I've already got a ground mounting hole and the battery tie down and a couple standoffs so we can mount our little fuse / relay panel. Since we're custom making shocks and springs, we knew that shock tower didn't need to be exact specific. The car dictated how shock towers needed to be. We could no longer use the same kind of shock placement as before, where the shock was mounted vertically, straight up and down. We gave it a little slight angle, which would make the shock progressive, but we've seen on many different cars that slight angle and the progressiveness of the shock is actually good for the suspension. What was tricky about this part of the shock tower building was that we couldn't disassemble the car. The car is already made, the trunk is already there. I had to build a frame inside the trunk. Basically, I had to build from backside forward. You guys can kind of see it. I bought myself a slim welding helmet so I can get my head in there and weld everything. I specifically researched and found out what seam sealer OEM cars use so that I can basically start seam sealing all the seams that would see weather from underneath the car. Last thing we want to do is build something like this and have rust come up, due to, water splashing and, getting inside the welds and stuff, cracks and whatnot.
So that is it. Martin got the new shock towers built. What do you guys think of these things? They are nicely painted with some primer to keep them nice and fresh until the finished paint is on them. So the way that the shock mounting system will work is that Steve has previously designed and machined these CNC mounting brackets. Now these will bolt right into the new system. It goes up inside of Martin's new shock tower like this, and then we'll bolt to those 4 bolts.
Like that.
Right up there like this. Now this shock is the Penske 8760 that was actually being used in Steve's personal Ferrari. We're going to be using a very similar shock in this car. We're going to be custom ordering that in one of the next videos. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. In the next one, we're going to be talking about the custom gas tank that we went ahead and built for this car. I can't wait to see you guys then.